Hell and Back Again is an intimate portrait of a Marine's experience in combat in Afghanistan, as well as back home in North Carolina, trying to reintegrate into an American society that has largely forgotten about the war in Afghanistan. The result is a shockingly truthful portrait. Thank you for joining us for the film, and enjoy the Q&A with Danfung Dennis, the director. What I didn't know when I saw the film at the time was that the film was made entirely by a guy who was stationed in Afghanistan nominally for the New York Times.
I've been working as a photojournalist since 2006 in both Iraq and Afghanistan as a still photographer. And even though my images were being published very widely, I felt like they weren't having any impact, that society had become completely numb to images of war. And so I felt like I really needed to convey the realities on the ground in a different way. You know, I've worked as a photographer, and the ethics behind that is simply to observe, to bear witness, and that hope that by showing an image of something that's so complex and of incredible pain and suffering that you can shake others from indifference, where in a society here that almost no one actually has to think about war, something really far away. But if only for a moment you can bring someone into this reality and just show them just for a second what it's like to be there, then we have a better understanding of war. It's hard to know how much impact an image has, and I still really believe in the power of the image. When we think of past wars, there are these iconic images that we'll forever remember and correlate to those. This war isn't even talked about, yet we're at war. There's this representation of war that is really heroic and glorious. And as a young man, when I first went to war at 23, you know, I had that image of war, and for a long time I was making images to match that almost Hollywood version. And then I realized what I had was much more real, and why was I showing this other version when I had this? I mean, I see a future where war is seen as something archaic, human behavior that doesn't exist anymore. This future where we look back at the images and the films of war, and it's something that doesn't exist. So I'm hoping I'm contributing to that future.
Just as an observation from my side, to me, this film is sort of an instant classic in the genre of war films, in a way. I think that people in 25 years will look at this film the same way that they look at non-documentary war films like Apocalypse Now or Platoon, that it shows a really, really personal and intimate portrait of what it's like to be a Marine, what it's like to come home from being a Marine. And I think you've achieved something really extraordinary.